Florida State is taking a big calculated risk with recruiting, and I love it.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today is Friday, the 13th of June, and we're talking recruiting with all the visits that the Noles have set up. Really important list, really important weekend because Florida State has built towards this moment. They have several guys they need to get. They're competing with their top competitors and their rivals, Clemson's and the Florida States, and etc. But that's actually the secondary part. Normally, that'd just be a great show by itself. But it gets a lot better. And that's what I'm going to open with now. I'm extremely excited about the risk that Florida State football recruiting is taking. Hear me out. Florida State started a week or two ago. I noticed on the 24/7 page, August 29th, official visits began to build. We're up to 5 players now, and I just kept waiting to see that go away or something change. Maybe there was a reason for it, but it's one thing to bring in unofficial visitors where you don't pay, they come on their own dime. And by all means, kids want to come to a big game, you allow it. But to use your one, and I do mean one, official visit for the Alabama weekend, after you went 2-10, after you changed both coordinators, after you changed quarterbacks, after you added 4 offensive linemen, you lost 3 guys at the receiver position to the transfer portal, after a massive change in philosophy on defense, after all of that, to double down and say, no, we're good. We're going to bring in Trenton Henderson and some other guys. I'll go over the list momentarily. To bring in that list, color me impressed. That takes cojones, that takes guts. It's a chip on the shoulder, if you will, from Mike Norvell and his staff. We're Florida State football. We're here to make a statement, and here's how we're going to do it. This could go wrong. I mean, it still could, but I like the idea of it. If you're going to be one of the top programs in college football at any point in the near future, you've got to have the guts to have official visitors for these kind of weekends, no matter what year you're coming off of. But I can tell you from first-hand experience, numerous times, a lot of coaches would run from this and head for the hills. I am no fan of Mike Norvell as the head coach. That is no secret. I'm less of a fan of him as a recruiter. But right here, right now is my happiest moment with what he has done in recruiting. Period. If you don't have guts, you have zero ability to be the head coach at Florida State. Bobby Bowden built the program in Tallahassee on not just hard schedules, ridiculous schedules, and winning games. And then when they reciprocated and came to campus, he used to play most of those tough games away. They wouldn't come to Tallahassee. When he started to get some of those, the recruits started coming in. That's how Florida State rose to the prominent program that not only was good, they finished in the top 4 of the final polls 14 years in a row. You go out and you beat the best, and then the best players come to your school. That's what Bowden did. Now, again, I have no idea how the Alabama game is going to go. It's year 2 for Kalen DeBoer, and Mike Norvell is well into his tenure, but he's basically starting over because of the new staff and all the new players. I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole if I was a gambler, and I'm not. But I love the cojones. Props to Norvell and props to his staff. So now, without further ado, here are the players involved. Preston Ashley from Brandon, Mississippi, one of the top corners in the South, one of the best players in Mississippi. They're bringing him in. Trenton Henderson, defensive end from Pensacola Catholic, arguably the best player in the Panhandle, North Florida, South Georgia, South Alabama. You could put him in that conversation. Possible 5-star, 6'4", 225, that guy that every school in the country wants, Michigan, Florida, Florida State, you name it. They're bringing him in for the Alabama weekend. Ashari Charles, another defensive end out of Venice High School. They've won multiple state championships. They've got players all over the place in college football, really good football player. This is another guy that could go to numerous football programs. Florida State's bringing him in. Jamarian Gordon out of Alabama, the kid that has got those typical SEC offers, another defensive lineman. He's coming to Tallahassee. And then Judah Daniels, a late riser, but another defensive lineman, 6'3", 265, out of Fort Myers High. He is also headed to Tallahassee. Bringing in those 5, and I'm going to go ahead and guess that they're going to bring in more, shows that Florida State believes in what they're doing. Say what you want, and I've said plenty myself, but this is commendable. Florida State is not hiding from anything. Florida State is not going away from anything. Florida State is on the attack. If you're going to recruit at an elite level, man, you gotta show it. Even if they lost a close game, if you show what Florida State's about, if you show what Florida State's capable of, all the hospitality in North Florida, which it's famous for, you should be able to convince some of these young men, hey, you need to take a serious look at coming to Florida State University. So I say for one final time here in this first segment, that is commendable. Tip of my cap and an applause. It's awesome. A lot of coaches would not have done the same. Now, does this only work if they play really well? I'm sure some people are asking, hey, we're going to get killed. What are we doing? Not necessarily. It's about experience. It's about relationships. And it's about the ability to continue to build a bond and show the vision. You won 2 games last year. I highly doubt that any of these kids, whether they say it publicly or not, really think Florida State's going to beat Alabama. That's my guess. I don't expect it. A lot of you probably don't want to say it out loud, but you probably don't expect it either. I think Bama is 11, 12-point favorite on FanDuel, somewhere in that range. There's a reason. They've got a lot of talent. It's the Alabama Crimson Tide. But that's not what official visits are about. It's the experience. It's the opportunity. It's the ability to go out, consistently compete for 4 quarters, and show the program as a whole. It's about the future, not that day. And the game is just a part of that 48 hours that they're allowed to pay for everything, housing, transportation, etc., and allow these young folks to kind of go around and explore what Florida State's all about, be around the players and the coaches. It's a rare opportunity. And again, I think it's awesome because it's the Alabama weekend. It'll be nutty. There'll be a lot of TV crews there. There'll be all kinds of media. It's fun. That's what Florida State football should be about. That's what Florida State, not just every now and then, but should be celebrated every day. It used to be the show in college football because of weekends like this. It could be again, but you got to get the talent. So we'll see if it works out. But I love the fact that they have 5 really good football prospects coming in for OVs in that late August window against Bama, game number 1. When we come back, I'm going to start breaking down the official visit list, what I expect, and some projections, if you will. Things to look for, trends with everything Florida State's doing in recruiting. That's next here on Locked On Seminoles. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and taking control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. It's easy to collaborate with your partner as well. Instead of keeping all your capital in different places, you can track your personal accounts, set goals, and more under Monarch Money without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, check out my other show, The Portal Podcast, talking about everything going on in the recruiting world. Going to be a lot of commitments this weekend. Some of the players Florida State's going after, they're probably going to get some commitments from this weekend, as well as some of the guys are going after at other places. Who are they going to miss out on? I break all that stuff down at the beginning of each week and throughout the week, for that matter, on the Portal Podcast. As for Florida State, let's now break down some of the official visitors that they have coming in. This is a really big weekend. I cannot stress that enough. And I think it's prudent to start off with the defensive players because Florida State made their bread and butter under Bowden with the defense that was nasty. Mickey Andrews and that crew really did a great job for years. And it kind of followed through with Fisher and several other guys that have coached at Florida State. So the most important guy, debatable, but I'm going to say Chauncey Kennan. He's a Florida State fan. He's an elite recruit as a corner. You never have enough of them. I don't care if you've got 5 good ones now. You need 5 more. Chauncey Kennan is that 6'1.5", 6'2" range, athletic kid out of Booker High School in Sarasota, Florida. He's got the change of direction skills and the moxie to make plays on the football. If he comes and he has a great visit, who knows? Maybe he sets a trend and he commits. Anything's possible. But if you're going to win, again, just like I said in the first segment, you got to take on the best teams. And he's looking at Georgia, Florida, Miami, and a bunch of other programs, LSU, et cetera, have all been after him. This is important. At some point, you have to get kids, even though you're not winning. There's just no shortcut. It's going to be an uphill climb. But he wants to see what Florida State can do. They've got to show him that the future is bright, and this is their chance to do it. We'll see how it goes. But Chauncey Kennan is an elite player. And again, Florida State fan growing up. You just cannot miss on this kid. Really good player. Jamarian Matthews, this one's interesting. He's from Alabama originally, but he lives in Gainesville, Georgia now. He's committed to the Crimson Tide. He's an edge rusher, 6'2"-ish, a little undersized in terms of height, I guess, but I don't look at that the same way a lot of other people do. Why is he taking visits? Like, he's from Bama. Yeah, I know he lives just north of Atlanta now, but he's a Bama fan. He's committed to Bama. Why is he taking visits? Something tells me that he's not feeling the love from Bama or something, because I don't understand it. I think he's a flip candidate for somebody. Is it Florida State? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe the kid just wants to go around and collect all the cash that he gets under the table for these visits. And yes, kids get cash all over the place on OVs. It happens constantly. But you still got to look at it like, hey, this is a good player, man. And he's from Gainesville High, one of the more prominent programs in the state of Georgia. They've had a ton of players go to the SEC, Florida State, and everywhere else. This is an important program. You need to recruit there anyway. If you can flip a Bama kid, kind of ironic considering who your first opponent is of the 2025 season. Another defensive player, and speaking of corners, CJ Brono. Windermere, basically Orlando, one of the fastest kids in the country. He is legit sub 4.4 electronic. That has been done at Under Armour. I've seen him run multiple times. Like, he can fly. Super athlete, super kid too. Committed to Nebraska, but schools like LSU and Oregon and all these different schools have made serious overtures in some way, shape, or form. But Penn State, Florida State, Nebraska look like the Final Four. Here's your shot, the chance to flip him. He is technically committed to the Cornhuskers for whatever that's worth. I think he will play corner, but he can play safety as well. He was elite at Under Armour, and this is the kind of prospect, especially if you could pair him with Chauncey Kennan, that could really flip your future in the right direction. Josiah Jackson out of Lee County High School, same high school as Chroma, the running backs coming into Florida State this summer. Really good player. National top 200 kid by 24/7. Another defensive back that would look really good in the garnet and gold. This is what you're looking for. Like, fits the profile from the size, the program is from. He knows Chroma, South Georgia kids, everything. And he's got an elite list of schools after him. Josiah Jackson is not one of those guys that is just a dummy either. He's got Georgia Tech and Stanford offers, among others. Bama's after him. That kind of puts it in perspective what kind of player he is. But forget the recruiting ranking. Nationally, 24/7 has him as the number 123 player and the number 12 player in the state of Georgia. If you're top 20 in Georgia, you're legit. For the record, the state of Georgia, as of right now, is the number 1 state in America for players to the NFL per capita. Obviously, they have a lot of talent. Xavier Tiller, sticking inside the Peach State, Langston Hughes High School. Many people think he's going to end up at Auburn, but I thought that for a long time. Like, why hasn't he committed? He's a flex tight end at Langston Hughes, one of the best programs in the South. It's just on the edge of Atlanta. Why hasn't he committed to Auburn? Bama, Florida State, and several other programs have been trying to get him. He was originally committed to the Texas A&M Aggies, 6'4", about 220. Really, really long kid. He's built kind of like Johnny was in a way, just really long and lanky. Florida State might use him more as a receiver. Obviously, they like big receivers on the perimeter. And I think he's a kid that Florida State could wow. For some reason, he hasn't made that pledge again after backing off his A&M commitment. Watch out for Xavier Tiller. Jason Lopez, wide receiver, Chaminade Madonna. I've talked about him before. I even talked about him a little bit yesterday on the show. If you're looking for that true nasty route runner in the slot, Lopez is a great pick. I just did my top 12 list for slot receivers on the Portal podcast. Lopez is on there for a good reason. I've seen him 2 years in a row at the Miami Under Armour camp. Dominant. Not many DBs can stay on him. If you do not get hands-on at the line of scrimmage, his route running will be a problem. The only way you can stop him is to rush the passer and not give him enough time. His route running is too good. And he's also got great hands. He'll make the catch behind him, in front of him, diving, whatever it is. Jason Lopez is that guy. He has several visits that he's been around and taken, and that's all great. But this is going to come down to Miami and Florida State. Be better for the Noles to win that battle and play with him as opposed to play against him. Deron Parks, a kid that I've talked about on this show before. Cardinal Mooney High School in Sarasota. He is massive, 6'5", 345, guard or tackle. Great feet. Really great kid, too. He's got tremendous personality. He's one of the happiest guys you'd ever meet. But that's why he's got offers from all over the place. Auburn and Ohio State are the schools I'd watch. Never know where it's going to end up. But Florida State's certainly going against top competition and programs with a lot of NIL. So I'll be curious to see where he goes. But Florida State needs the O-lineman. We all know it. Let's see what happens with Deron Parks. Tadarius Hughes, I talked about him extensively here recently. Arguably the most important guy, in my opinion, that is currently committed to Florida State to stay in the fold because of his athleticism and length. Conservatively, the kid's 6'2", but with his length, he's more like 6'6". Like his arms are forever. He was really impressive at the Battle Miami tournament that I saw earlier this year. Tadarius Hughes is a really good football player. A bunch of schools were after him, but Syracuse is probably the one that I would watch the most. Don't know what it is that Fran Brown's doing, but you got to give him credit. The guy can recruit, and this is one of those guys that I don't know what it is. They just really, really, really like Fran. Now, let's go on to the next guy. Florida State still has a lot of guys they're trying to get a DB on the defensive side of the ball in this class. And Darrell Bell's also committed to Florida State. He's coming in. But that's not a lock. Auburn is trying to flip him. And I know there are other programs. You never know about Miami possibly doing something. He's from Barbara Goldman High School in Hialeah, right on the edge of Miami. Need to lock him down this weekend. Auburn's had him on campus. Let's see if Florida State can lock that one up. Darion Williams, this is the one I talked about extensively yesterday. I don't know if there's any date for him to quote-unquote shut it down, but like even Brandon Olson from Locked On Gators, he thinks they're going to flip it. Now, every staff that somebody talks to, they think they're getting everybody. That's why I don't talk to college coaches as much as I used to. They always think they're getting everybody, and it's ridiculous. But there's been a lot of chatter about it. I've heard this from John Garcia Jr. and other people as well. Florida is a player. Again, it's one thing to lose a guy. It's another to lose him to your arch rival. Gators, Canes, that's no good. So Florida State needs to hold on to Darion Williams. He's a receiver out of Plant High School in Tampa. Really, really good athlete. He could play DB too in a heartbeat. Very, very talented. Tico Crittenden. This would be really nice considering Florida State wants to play more three-man line, 6'4", 300 out of Lithonia, Georgia, not that far from Atlanta. Big body guys like this. Take a wild guess who's involved. The Bulldogs. South Carolina's involved. Who else we got here? Texas Tech. So NIL is probably a factor. I'm curious to see how far Florida State goes into this one because that's a really, really good mix of programs with NIL. If you want the big-time D tackles, you got to spend. It's the one spot for sure you got to spend. Will Florida State do that? I'm not really sure, but we'll find out soon enough. When we come back, we're going to complete the list of official visitors here on Locked On Seminoles. All right, let's get down to the business of the last group of kids. We got some offensive players to get to as well, but we're not quite done with defense yet either. An interesting visitor, Crean Lutheran High School, just outside of LA in Irvine, James Carrington, defensive lineman, 6'2", 240. This is a kid that I have no idea what Florida State's connection is to LA. They've got some LA kids coming in this year. Arkansas and Nebraska, it's a weird list. But he's a kid that's moved around. He's not originally from California. Maybe Florida State makes a move here or they don't. Out of this list, this is the kid that I wouldn't have a clue where he's going to end up at. But the frame is there, the size is there, and you always need defensive linemen. So let's see what happens with Florida State and James Carrington, another big-bodied kid coming to Tallahassee on the June 13th weekend. Sean Johnson's coming back. The official visit for him, he's the commitment to the Florida State Seminoles, long DB out of Archbishop Spalding in Severn, Maryland. I don't think that he's necessarily a guy that they're worried about losing, but when you get him back on campus for the OV, you find out for sure. To my knowledge, Sean Johnson doesn't have anybody lined up for an OV anywhere else, but it's good to have him back. And he can also help recruit for Florida State, and maybe he gets somebody else to come on board, maybe Chauncey Kenner or somebody like that. Another kid that I'm wondering more about, Landon Myree, Princeton High School, good program. Tight end from Cincinnati, 6'4", 215. I don't know a ton about him, but looking at his list, Arizona State and Baylor are some of the schools he's visited, and he's from Cincinnati. Really, really random list. Like, the Midwest is more loaded with tight ends than normal, and I don't think Ohio State's really pursuing many of them. Maybe that's why, but I'm surprised. No, Indiana, Michigan State, it's a weird list. But Florida State brings him into campus this weekend. A familiar name, Noah Lavalley, is the kid from Walton High School in Marietta. His brother, of course, is at Florida State, 6'1", 220. Florida State is probably going to win this battle. Ole Miss has been his only other official visit. Kind of like their opportunity there. Isaac Obrochta. Now, this is a wide receiver from Raven Gap. I talked about him briefly yesterday. Self-admittedly, don't know much about him. Raven Gap is a private boarding school. Their tight end signed with Bama last year. They have kids going to the SEC and ACC. A lot of good players coming out of there, but I don't see them. They're up in North Georgia. Really don't know what's going on with him, but Florida State is bringing him in for an OV. That's an interesting list. Finally, just kind of looking at this, there are a few kids that Florida State's bringing in overall that I think, A, they need to shore up, but B, more importantly, they need to get a pulse of where they are as a program with recruiting. This is a great list. There was a ton of talent. If they're going to get back on track, kind of like I was talking about in the first segment of the show with the Bama weekend, this is another barometer. You don't necessarily got to get all the commitments this weekend, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Florida State needs somebody to pop on Saturday or early Sunday to set the stage. The Noles need recruiting momentum. And yes, that is a thing. They need some kind of recruiting momentum. I don't know which player it would be. Obviously, again, it'd be great if it's Chauncey Kenner, just throwing it out there. But they need somebody to get the ball rolling. Florida recruiting's doing well. Miami recruiting's doing well. Clemson recruiting's doing well. Georgia recruiting's doing well. All these schools around. They need recruiting momentum. This weekend's full of talent. Several of these kids are very familiar with the program. They've been to Tallahassee before. And the Noles have done all the legwork. Most of these kids, again, with those unofficial visits, it's kind of decision time. The next couple of weeks, it's just decision time. If you can expedite that process, get a few of these kids to commit, it would be huge for Florida State. The recruiting class is pretty good so far, but they need to continue to build. It's been a slow stretch over the last couple of months. Now is the time. We'll see if Florida State's able to do it, but again, I know it's very high-end competition, but that's what Bobby Bowden built this program on. When he took the program over, it wasn't much different than what Norvell would be starting with now. It was terrible. Probably worse than what Florida State's roster is coming in this year. I highly doubt they had a Darrell Jackson Jr. Just saying. Bottom line, Florida State football has a chance this weekend to really start to get rolling. I don't know who's going to commit or how many guys plan on it, but they're in on so many of these guys that are close. Maybe Lavely, somebody, if they don't get a commitment by the end of the weekend and it's public, not just one of those silent commitments, I'd be a little worried. I would. Not saying there's anything wrong with getting a few of the guys in the middle of the week. That's certainly fine. But to truly maximize, they need some recruiting momentum, and we'll see if they can do that. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you for stopping in and talking some Noles with me. We've talked a lot of recruiting this week, and we will for the next couple of weeks. That's the season that it is. And again, if you need to find more recruiting information, I got you covered over at the Portal Podcast. You can find it on X at LO_the Portal. And there's all kinds of stuff coming up with commitments. The next 3 or 4 weeks are going to be bananas on all the different podcasts that we have here on the Locked On Network. Every show should be doing a lot of recruiting. So if you're a recruiting nut like me, you're in the right place. Thank you once again. Please like and subscribe. Please share this podcast. And if you would, comment down below. It truly helps the show, and we love to have your comments. Love to get the discourse going back and forth. Everybody have a good one. We'll see you soon on Locked On Seminoles.